Hello and welcome. This is Mike D, and in this video I'm going to show you how to control most of Tone Mapper's option properties of Daz Studio using a Stream Deck device with the help of my product Tone Map option console. First thing I have to do is to install all these scripts into the Daz scripts menu. I'm navigating through my main library into the path scripts Mike D Tone Mapper options console, and I'm executing the first script, add to menu and to toolbar. Doing that, this dialog will pop up. I'm leaving all the default options, and by pressing add to menu button, a pop-up prompt me to restart the studio before continue. This is what I'm going to do now. Let's see now how you can install the included profiles for the Stream Deck Classic device with 15 keys. Navigate again into the main library or into your Daz main library, into the path General Mike D Tone Mapper Options console. Right click anywhere on this gray area and choose Browse to Folder Location option. The folder will pop up into a new window. And now I've got to open my Stream Deck driver application, and over here at the top I've got to choose my Stream Deck device if I've got many Stream Deck devices. I've got to add the custom plugin in order to work with my scripts, so I'm pressing this keyboard icon over here. A new dialog will pop up and I'm choosing the plugins tab. In this search box I'm writing super, and I'm going to use the super macro by Bar Radar. In your case you have to press the install button, which will be here, and I've got an uninstall option as I have already installed it into my PC. After this, you can just go into your folder and double click on this file, Mike D Tone Mapping option for Daz Studio 15 keys. Doing that, you will see that a new profile is now into your Stream Deck profiles. As you can see, this profile has 3 pages. On page 1, you can find some additional buttons in order to lead you into some external profiles. The first button is for linking with any Daz main profile you already have into your Stream Deck device. If you own my other products, Autofocus Suite or Lights console, you can also link these buttons with these external profiles. How to do this? You've got to click on each of these buttons, and on the profile option you've got to assign the profile you want into the selected button. As you can see in your Stream Deck Classic profile, for the 2 first pages, each column controls one of the tone mapping properties. As you can see, each column has 3 keys. The first key has the name of the property, and if you press it, it will show your current value. Press and hold the same button in order to set the default value. The other 2 rows has an arrow and a down, an up arrow and a down arrow, and with these keys you can increase or decrease the property that is controlled by the corresponding column. You can navigate through the pages with these arrows to the right. Back in Studio, and as you can see, I have loaded an older promo scene in order to work with. I'm going to open the right side of the user interface in the tone mapping options, over here, the tone mapping tab. In order to see these values changed, each time I'm pressing a key on my Stream Deck device. I'm going to switch the NVIDIA array on so we can adjust our scene. If you take a look in Stream Deck's first page, you will see that the two first columns are responsible for the brightness of the scene. The first color is controlling the exposure property, and the second column is controlling the film ISO property. The exposure works in reverse, which means that increasing its value will decrease the brightness into our scene. If we want to make our scene brighter, we've got to decrease its value. The film ISO is responsible for holding the film's sensitivity. Increasing the value of the film ISO will also increase our scene's brightness. Let's adjust now the brightness into our test scene. I'm closing this dialog now. I will decrease my exposure into the scene, and each time I'm pressing the decrease key, as you can see here, the exposure is lowering by a value of 0.25. The exposure value is a very sensitive value, and small adjustments can lead into big differences in our scene brightness. I'm going in small steps, and I think that 11 and 75 is a suitable value for me. Now, the film ISO is moving into steps of 10. As you can see here, I'm going incremental in small steps in order to achieve my desirable result. I think that 120 or maybe 110 is a good outcome for me. Let's go now into the next column, which is controlling the vignetting. The vignetting is a property that gives a border around our scene. In any case that the value is positive, this border is black. This is a dark border, and each time the value is a negative value, the border around our scene will be white. It will be a bright border around our scene. I'm going to increase its value for a while, although normally I'm setting this property at the end of the adjustments, so I have an overall picture of what my render wants to be. Let's see now the second page in the Stream Deck device, a page which is controlling the burn highlights, grass blacks, the saturation, and the gamma properties of the tone mapping tab. I have scrolled also this tab down a little bit in order to see these properties in here as well. Some words about each one of the properties. The burn highlights. The burn highlights is the property that controls the brighter parts of our scene. Increasing this value, we will make the highlights even brighter. The grass blacks is the property that controls the shadows in our scene. Increasing its value, we will make our shadows even darker. Increasing both these values of the burn highlights and the grass blacks, we will also increase the overall contrast of our scene. In a smaller amount, we will increase the saturation as well. What exactly is the saturation? The saturation, and of course here the saturation property, is controlling how vivid our colors will be in the scene. If we decrease this value, we will wash out our colors, and in very low values, our scene will be almost black and white. Increasing this value, we will make our colors more vivid, but in extreme high values, the colors will not be natural. The gamma property is a property that controls the contrast of the render. this gamma property is affected by many factors, and for color image and not black and white, it is 2.2 for the PC monitors. This is not a rule that we cannot break. Of course, we can increase or decrease this value in order to change the overall contrast of our scene. Let's adjust now this scene to make it even better. Now, let's increase the highlights of our scene, and except from this area over here, which the properties are visible, you can see the current value in the status bar of Daz Studio as well. I'm going to increase the highlights in a value of 0.35. Yes, this is a good value. And I'm going to increase the blacks as well. You can see Lucy's hair over here that becomes even darker. And I think that the 0.33 value is good enough. Now the saturation, I'm going to increase this value a little bit into the 1.05. And the gamma factor, I'm going to decrease this value, and decreasing the gamma factor, the gamma value, will increase our overall contrast. You can see now in 180, 190, we've got a very nice contrast in our scene. Now, I have some issues with our lighting, as by adjusting these values also affected the overall light. So I'm going into the previous page, in the page 1, in order to control the exposure and the film ISO again. First of all, I'm going to reset the vignetting. I don't want to have any vignetting to affect my scene now. And I'm going to get my exposure value a little bit lower into the 1164. It is maybe too much, so I'm going to get the film ISO back to 100. Yes, now I believe that the image is good enough for this parameter, and let's go to the third page. In the third page, I've got everything that is related with the white point property. The white point property is a really complicated property, and I have a whole video explaining how to work with this property in order to get the best result. As a quick tip over here, I can say that the white point is controlling the color that should be white in our scene. For example, over here I can say that normally this wall over here should be white. Now let's see a little bit what I can do with my Stream Deck buttons. The first button is responsible to get the white point into the default color of white. With the second button, I can pick my white point from the scene, and I'm going to use this button. And the button in the second and the third row are buttons for manually adjusting the white point using the RGBs, the red, green and blues, and their complementary colors, the cyan, the magenta and the yellow. I've got to say in this point that each one of these buttons is increasing its color into the scene. For example, if you are going to press this cyan arrow, it will increase the cyans into the scene and not into the white point. Into the white point, it will increase its complementary color, which is red. Okay, remember that all these arrows affect the scene, as it said in the icon. I'm closing this dialog, and I'm going to show you how to adjust the white point. I have to start adjusting my white point from a white color in the widget, a black color, or any natural gray. As I've got already a white color over here, I will press this button with the eyedrop in order to select a white point from my scene. In order to do this, I've got to go into my color widget, and I have to press and hold the Shift key into the keyboard while I'm clicking with the mouse anywhere in the color, in the white color of the widget, not on the number. And by clicking over here, my cursor has become a crosshair. I am dragging this crosshair to the point I think that should be white on my scene. For example, this blue-gray wall. Now this blue-gray color has passed into the color widget, and by pressing the accept button, this will be my new white point. Remember that the gray is not affect the overall behavior of the white point. Over here we want only the color information, the blue part of the information. As you can see, my scene has become now even more yellow as I have added the complementary color into the white point. Now I can use the arrows in the third page over here in order to adjust my final white point and make the render exactly to the point I want it. I can reduce a little bit my whites by adding a little bit blue, as it is already too much orange for me, and I may add a little bit cyan and a little bit magenta. I believe that this is better for my taste, and now I can even move into the first tab in order to increase a little bit the film ISO and make my scene a little bit more brighter. I believe that this is a more acceptable outcome, at least for me, and I'm going to leave the render as it is now. I hope that all these scripts will help you in order to control Daz Studio tone mapping options with your Stream Deck device, and it will make your workflow even quicker and easier. Thank you for watching my video.